To anyone who takes unbelievers as allies instead of believers and addresses his love and support to them. Allah says, whoever of you allies himself with them is indeed one of them. Now this is a very important issue, and the importance lies in how people understand it. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Al-Khawarij in general, their understanding, or if you may recorrect that by saying their misunderstanding, caused the whole ummah a great deal of hardship. And as usual, there are always two sides and a middle path. The Muslims who follow the Quran and the Sunnah according to the understanding of the Salaf are always on the middle path. The two extremes are always there. There always are Khawarij, and there are always liberals and secularists who want to change the deen altogether. So let us go through what the Shaykh said and try to understand it through the Quran and the Sunnah. The Shaykh says the same applies, meaning this takes the person out of the fold of Islam. To anyone who takes unbelievers, disbelievers, as allies instead of believers, and addresses them or addresses his love and support to them. Allah says, whoever of you, وَمَن يَتَوَلَّهُم مِّنكُمْ فَإِنَّهُ مِنْهُمْ, whoever of you allies himself with them is indeed one of them. So, what do we mean by allying yourself with them? And when I marry a Christian lady, I have great love for her, and we're so intimate and close together. Am I committing an act of kufr or apostasy? Isn't this allying with her? What about if I have parents who are Hindus and I'm a revert? What would I do? What should I say? Well, first of all, scholars have differentiated and segregated between two meanings or two types of al-muwalat. And this is a big chapter in the books of al-aqa'id. What is al-muwalat? Allegiance. So, what are these two types? In Arabic, they call it at-tawalli, number one, wal-muwalat, number two. Some scholars say they're the same. And basically, it is showing care, love, interest, and underline, bold, change the color into red, and support to the disbelievers over the believers, over the Muslims. So this is why scholars said, no, there's a thin line that we have to separate the two from one another. So al-muwalat is to love the disbelievers, to be kind for them or to them, due to a worldly reason, due to materialistic things, without compromising your Islam and wanting them to win over Islam. This is called what? I can't hear you. Of course I can't hear you. I'm not with you. This is called al-muwalat. And I'd like you to write it down and to memorize it. Give examples, Sheikh. I'll do that. A person who's married to a Christian, he loves her, he cares for her, but he doesn't love her religion. He resents her kufr and disbelief. Likewise with his parents. This is not even muwalat. This is something that is permissible, because muwalat is sinful. It's a major sin, and it can be something that takes you out of the fold of Islam. So the example I'm giving is not muwalat. There's nothing wrong in that. It's totally legit. Muwalat, if I'm a Muslim ruler and I love the disbelievers, the Christians, I ask them to give me assistance. I ask them to give me advice. I do them favors. Why? Because they help me stay in power. Because they provide for me cash. They bought me. They give me a lot of dollars. Because they provide me with women and liquor and all the sins and desires I wish and hope for. Okay, this is muwalat. It's a major sin that can be an act of apostasy. But generally speaking, it's a major sin. Like that is how some scholars describe the action of Hatib ibn Abi Balta'a, may Allah be pleased with him. Hatib, when the Prophet ﷺ had the intention to conquest Mecca, wrote them a letter. Hatib is not any normal person. He is one of the members who attended Badr, the Battle of Badr, which gives him a very high ranking in Islam. So he wrote a letter and he sent it with a woman to Mecca, warning them. The Prophet ﷺ received revelation, and he sent Zubair ibn al-Awwam and Ali ibn Abi Talib, and he told them to go, and at a specific area they will find this woman. Retrieve from her the letter. So they went and they found the woman where the Prophet ﷺ described, and they took the letter from her. When the Prophet ﷺ saw the letter and summoned Hatib, the Prophet did not jump the gun, which shows you how patient and tolerant he is. He asked for clarification. He could have beheaded him on the spot. This is treason, capital treason. Hatib said, "O Prophet of Allah, Wallahi, I love Islam and the Muslims." And this is important, huh? I love Islam and the Muslims. And I know that the religion of Allah will prevail. But I am not from Quraysh tribe. I came and migrated to Quraysh. And I have family there, and I have friends and associates. So I wanted them to hold a favor for me when I give them a heads up, yet I know definitely that this would not help them at the least. But at least they would say later on, years later, "Oh, Hatib gave us a heads up. He's a good ally. He's a good friend." So Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, said, "O Prophet of Allah, allow me to chop his head off. This guy is a hypocrite." Now, if that was an act of kufr or shirk, the Prophet would have immediately allowed him. But the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, to Umar, "Let him be, Umar. Didn't you know that Allah addressed the people of Badr and said to them, 'Do whatever you want, for I have forgiven you'?" Scholars all say that "do what you want, for I have forgiven you" is related to major sins, not shirk or kufr, because this would not be forgiven if they die on it. So this shows you al-muwalat. He didn't do it because he loved kufr or shirk or the disbelievers. No, he did it for something that's worldly. May Allah be pleased with him. As for al-muwalat, Allah says in the Quran, in many places, that being kind to them is okay, to the disbelievers, as long as they don't show any hostility or enmity. There's nothing wrong in that. Allah says, "O believers, do not take my enemies and yours as trusted allies, showing them affection even though they deny what has come to you of the truth." Some scholars looked at this ayah and said, this is muwalat or tawalli. Some said this is muwalat, because Allah addressed them in the beginning, "O believers, O you who believe." So He addressed them as believers, though they were taking the disbelievers as allies and showing them trust and affection. So this is muwalat, and it does not take you out of the fold of Islam, except if it's in high levels. Then it turns into, from muwalat into tawalli. As for tawalli, Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran, "O believers, take neither Jews nor Christians as guardians or allies. They are guardians of each other. Whoever does so will be counted as one of them. وَمَن يَتَوَلَّهُم مِّنكُمْ فَهُوَ مِنْهُمْ." Whoever does so, he will be or counted as one of them. Surely Allah does not guide the wrongdoers, the wrongdoing people. So this is tawalli. And Allah says also, "You will never find a people who truly believe in Allah and the last day, loyal to those who defy Allah and His Messenger." You will not find them loyal. This is taking them as allies, as guardians, as protectors. So what is actually tawalli? Tawalli is a manifestation of major hypocrisy, where the individual claims to be a Muslim but loves to see disbelief or shirk and the disbelievers or the mushrikeen overcome the Muslims. And this is a decisive criteria in understanding how severe and bad this is among the Muslims. When you find that someone who claims to be a Muslim putting his hand with the disbelievers, armies and governments, against the Muslims at large, and I'm not talking about a faction of the Muslims, because you can find someone putting hand in hand with the disbelievers against a terrorist group, for example, among the Muslims. Yes, this is an issue of dispute, whether the Muslims can hire or can join forces with the disbelievers against a faction of a Muslim. And the most authentic opinion is that this is permissible if there is a need for that, and that would not be tawalli, because it's like using dogs in hunting. Though dogs are najis, it's permissible for us to use them as hunting game. Likewise, such armies and disbelievers are like hired dogs and hounds, that we use them for a purpose, not against all Muslims, not against Islam, rather against someone who's a terrorist or someone who's a culprit or an evil person, group, or organization. So at-tawalli is something that is a feeling. where you love to see Islam and the Muslims lose to the disbelievers. Not only that, you support the disbelievers with advice, with military power, with wealth, with landscape and facilities. And this is obvious to be something that takes a person out of the fold of Islam.